Hi, so I just found out that the person who handles this call on vacation and won't be back until next week.
The movie industry has a history as rich and intriguing as any of the movies it's ever produced. What's more, America may not have become the great nation it is today without the vision of the Jewish immigrants who established the movie industry. These were the original movie moguls, many of whom started out in Manhattan's Lower East Side and later moved west. Unlike the world they grew up in, the moguls entered an America of robust, nuclear families headed by strong fathers, doting neo-Victorian mothers, and happy children. Most Americans were from one-income Christian families that constituted a strong and growing middle class.
The American dream was liberty, the freedom to worship God, to raise our families. That was the American dream. And I think over the years, the focus has changed, and I think that the emphasis now on materialism was not the original dream of the Founding Fathers. And quite frankly, I think it's very important that we get back to the original dream of the founders, which was liberty.
Even though the business establishment at turn-of-the-century America was somewhat discriminating, if not anti-Semitic, the movie moguls took the high road. They created their own businesses, including the first Nickelodeons, theaters, and motion picture production companies. The movies they would go on to produce ignored the bad and built on what was good about America. Not only did the moguls want to assimilate, they made movies that got us through the Great Depression and the World Wars, movies that uplifted us with dance and musicals, hope and visions of prosperity, Art Deco, romance, dreams of a better life and a glorious future. For the immigrant moguls knew what it was like to go without, and so they worked ever harder to inspire an America to go in style, to have good dads, loving mothers, responsible children, a respect for religion, productivity, innovation, low debt, and a higher standard of living for each generation.
The original movies were very, very promotional of a new dream, a new country, a new way of life. They were respectful of traditional values, and they in many ways not only promoted the American dream, but established what many people adopted as the American dream.
Their wholesome and imaginative black and white movies, TV shows, and nightly news inspired America to become greater than anyone ever dreamed. Unfortunately, not everyone found the moguls' vision uplifting. Thomas Edison, inventor of the motion picture camera, used ruthless collection tactics for royalties on his patents. So much so, he eventually forced the moguls to leave town. And they did, to a sunny suburb of Los Angeles that became known as Hollywood.
So you'd have to say they were probably wrong in doing that. But Edison, on the other hand, hired thugs to run after these independent producers, sometimes referred to as the outlaw producers, and beat them up or assault them. And so this is one of the reasons that is sometimes cited as a reason for the founding of Hollywood.
They also needed the sunlight because the exposure index of films of the day was very, very low, somewhere around an ASA of something like 5 or 8, as opposed to today's films, which are at 250 and 500 ASA. So being close to the Mexican border to get away from Edison's patent thugs and having plenty of sunlight and reliable weather out in Hollywood land were the reasons that the movie moguls left New York City and basically set up 5 movie studios and 4 mini majors in the area of Los Angeles.
There, far from Edison's patent police, but near the Mexican border, the moguls built an even more glamorous industry than what they had left back east. For what kid hasn't marveled at Hollywood movies, the silver screen with its mind-boggling action adventures and the endearing romances of our favorite stars? And now, a global industry, what nation has not benefited from Hollywood movies? What people have not been able to feel closer to other people, especially when we realize that we are more alike than different?
People feel closer to people who they may have never met by virtue of seeing a story about someone they don't know, but has aspects of their life that matches the life they live. The technology of film and television is just another way of people telling stories to each other
Yes, the movie moguls would go on to present an idealized vision of the American dream and even build an empire of their own.
In his book, An Empire of Their Own, Neil Gabler explains how these mostly Jewish immigrants came here. A lot of them had dysfunctional families, bad dads, and they made movies that reflected a more idealized scene, a scene that they would have liked to have seen.
And now, 100 years later, this empire creates thousands of hours of movies and TV shows every year. The production output from hundreds of companies, a cornucopia of human thought now on everyone's fingertips. Unfortunately, this cornucopia is but an illusion. 50 shades of gray, but little or no color.
It seems that we have a cornucopia of media with different views. But in reality, in spite of the fact that we've got different networks and different channels and maybe 100 different options on our television sets, if you look at the viewpoints of the mainstream of those channels anyway, they're all pretty much the same. So it's an illusion that we have a lot of choices. It's the same kind of an illusion when you look at political parties, for example. It's the feeling that, well, we've got the Republicans or the Democrats here in the United States, and that certainly is a choice, isn't it? And there are choices, of course, on viewpoints on a lot of minor issues, but on the really big issues like American sovereignty, the Federal Reserve System, which is a banking cartel, those issues are not a point of debate or a different point of view at all of these different news channels that we talk about, and we think, oh, we've got all of our choices. Yeah, they'll talk about a lot of little things, but the really important issues are not even up for discussion.
We have been trying for 10 years to address every outlet of the mainstream media has received our DVD, our petition calling for a new investigation with 2,500 architects and engineers, but we don't get any reporting from that.
As we will more fully explore, certain issues, subjects, stories, and whole populations are now ignored, invalidated, vilified, and defamed every time we turn on a TV or watch a movie. In fact, from our teens to our 40s, the Hollywood movies now indoctrinate us with all manner of violence and propaganda. And then, from our 40s onward, the New York media riddles us with a narrow spectrum of anti-constitutional liberal news from almost every outlet. Let's take a look at the structure of the mainstream media and shed some light on why this happened, how it restricts our speech, and how it promotes a globalist agenda that's destroyed the American dream.